Welcome to Hope is Here, bringing hope to those struggling with life's difficult situations.
Welcome to Hope is Here. My name is Greg Horn. We are continuing our conversation with fellow Kentuckian and Hall of Fame basketball coach Don Lane. Coach Lane wrote a book last year that's just phenomenal called The Lane Way, Family, Faith, and 50 Years in Basketball. And on Wednesday and Thursday, we just had a great time hearing about his family growing up here in Woodford County and just how God has taught him so many things through winning over 500 basketball games as a head coach, a Hall of Famer. And obviously we learn a lot in sports because sometimes you win, sometimes you lose, so it parallels life a lot. If you miss those first two programs, really want to encourage you to go to our website, hopeisheretoday.org. That's hopeisheretoday.org, and check out that 14-minute program or whatever platform you listen to podcasts. We're on all of those, Spotify, iTunes, Podbean, and you'll be blessed by those two. Also want to encourage you to go check out his website, coachlane.net. That's coachlane.net. You can get a copy of the book there and just go back down memory lane like I did as I followed his wonderful career, mainly at Transylvania University. Well, Coach, one of the things that, you went over 500 basketball games. Obviously, you had a few losses too.
Yes, as my son likes to say, Brian, as the present coach at Transy, and he goes around town speaking or wherever he might be, if people know me, he says, my dad might be the winningest coach at Transylvania. He's also got the most losses too. So
I can hear Brian and see Brian saying that. Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
I say, well, you might be that you're the second most winning coach. I'd say you probably have the second most losses.
So talk to us about though, just because there are so many parallels in life. How did you learn through your coaching career not to get too high on the wins and not too low on the losses?
You hit that right on the head. I was not that way as a player. I didn't let it affect me to that degree. I was in playing, I didn't get too high or low. But if we lost, I got pretty low because I didn't like to win. I hated to lose. But I learned a lot of things from Lee Rose, and I did a specific breakout chapter on him, Ron Whitson, a longtime assistant, my wife, and the camps. There's breakout chapters all through it, but faith and so forth. But the big thing is Lee had a way of talking to the players and say, man, I don't want you too high and I don't want you too low. Because for every really, really high, there's going to be a real, real low. So we as Christians have to be thankful and be with people, even regardless if you're Christian or not. But particularly if you're a Christian, there's no reason to be really low. You got hope. And you got a opportunity to talk to. You don't have to have anybody around you. You got Jesus and God right there to talk to you every day, and they'd be right just the two of you. So that helped me a lot in my coaching. I will grant you, I did a lot of praying and a lot of Bible reading and so forth more during the season than any other time, maybe. Not asking to win, but to giving me the guidance to do the right thing with my players, the way I needed to coach that team, to make sure we didn't have those super high. The highs, some kids you got to bring them off a high a little bit, or you don't, you're going to get beat the next game. So that's a good thing about not too high and not too low, because the extremes of the other are really hurtful. And in many cases, it's not the high that it could be. If you went the wrong way with the high, as it could be with the low, it could mean death for some people. So you got to make sure you keep, and that's true, that's life, period. You got to keep it, again, we talked about balance a couple of days ago. You've got to be sure that you keep your life in balance and don't let yourself get overly too high, or there's things going to happen to you. We all know that. It's not going to be good. And it may be there for you. What, God, why is this happening? Well, God may not be the reason it's happening. It's God may be letting it happen because you need to work for it to be, hey, come back to me. But still yet, it's I think it's a wonderful thing that you said. And the first person I ever really heard say that and talk about it at length was Lee Rose.
Well, I'm familiar with who Lee Rose is, but I had to be reminded when I read that chapter in your book. I mean, obviously had a wonderful career at Trancey and, followed C.M. Newton, so been some great coaches you followed there, and you continued that tradition, took it to another level. But for those that maybe aren't as familiar with Lee Rose, share about what he went on to do after he left Trancey.
Well, Lee Rose, I went from Woodford County to actually he was an assistant coach at Sales High School one year, and I was a sophomore. That's where I got to know him. And through the years, he wanted me to come to Trancey, but they had to see him wanted to go another direction when I got to school, so I went to Union. But Coach Rose and I stayed in contact. I was coaching at Woodford County, and he spoke at our banquet. And I said, if Coach Weir Willie ever leaves, I'd be interested in talking to you about the assistant's job. And so I did. And that happened that spring. Coach Weir Willie left and went to Berea College. And Lee called me and said, would you be interested? And yes, I will. I went, not knowing I was going to be taking a $3,000 salary cut. That's pretty tough in those days, from $12,500 to $9,500. But still, yet it was well worth it. But Lee was a guy that I've always said, and I've said it many, many times, he's the greatest strategist in terms of basketball that I've ever seen. And I've talked to the best and worked with some of the best. But he's great. But after he left Trancey, he went to UNC Charlotte, went to the Final Four with Cornbread Maxwell, who was an all-NBA player. Then from there he went to Purdue, went to the Final Four. Joe Barry Carroll, won Player of the Year and great pro player. Then he went to South Florida, spent several years at South Florida as a coach. Didn't have quite the success he did at the other places, but was very successful because he was building the program. And then he went into the pros and spent over 20 years in the pros as an assistant coach, player personnel, one of the top guys in Milwaukee, except to the general manager. I mean, he had in fact, toward the end of his career, he was the guy that they used as a mentor for the coaches in the G League. Wow. So, I mean, plus he's a man of faith, his family, his wife were tremendous people. And I could just remember, I'll never forget the first year that I was the head coach, we beat Kentucky State for the first time. He'd lost to them 7 straight times, and we beat them. And he sent me a telegram the next day. He said, well, Coach, the program's yours now. You've done something that I never ever do. And that meant a lot to me. But every year you'd send me a note, say, have a great year, Coach, because he mentored me all the way up until his death.
Well, we all need those people in our corner, don't we?
Yes, we do.
Well,
without him, I would not. He did a lot in terms of helping me in a lot of areas of my life that we've already talked about the last couple of days. But in the coaching element, he really, really was a big influence on me.
Well, it is a great chapter in the book. I really enjoyed it. Like I said, on top of a great basketball coach, family man, and a man of faith. Before you came to Trancey, also you were head coach at Indiana University Southeast, and you shared about the time when you shared your faith with one of your players after unfortunately his grandfather passed away. Share with us about that.
That was the really I did. Again, I didn't preach to my team a lot. I'd try to let myself be they knew I was a man of faith. They knew I went to church. I'd say, if any of you want to go with me, you're welcome to go. If any of you need to do something at church, just let me know, and we'll work it out practice-wise. And Otis lost his grandfather and came in just so distraught. And once I got him calmed down, I said, Otis, is your grandfather a Christian? And he said, yes, he was. And I said, give me his age, and he was up in years. I said, let's talk about it. He may be in I know he's in a better place today because you said he was a Christian. And then I proceeded to talk to him about plan of salvation. And I could just see him just have a whole big burden lift off his shoulders as he walked out the door. But those kinds of things that you get as a coach, you don't put a value on those. You're just glad you're in a position and that God gives you the strength to be able to say the right things.
Well, I've heard Billy Graham say that, nobody has more impact on young people's lives than coaches, just the impact, teachers and coaches, which when you're coaching, you're kind of doing teaching, obviously, too.
They're the same, coaching and teaching.
Well, share with us, I remember this, because spent a lot of time following your career and attending games. Obviously lots of wins and losses, but, there's also, unfortunately, life and death sometimes, even with young people. And share about Jeff Young, a special young man.
Well, Jeff Young, I recruited him out of Florida, and he was 6'10", almost 6'11". And Everett Bass, a former UK Transy player that was working with Coach Rose, and I called him and said, where's the big kid? He said, one right in Winter Park, Florida. I believe I can help you get him. So we got him to Transylvania. And as a freshman, he loved it. Playing, he wasn't starting, but he was playing. He was going to be a great player for us. When his parents had lived in 21 states in 20 years, because his dad moved and was doing computer work at that time, which was really quite different than it is now, and just beginning, really. And they moved to California during his freshman year, and he went home for Christmas break. And he came back, and he just was lethargic. We thought he had mono, and he ended up he had acute leukemia. And we took him all the way through that spring with my team, and they would send him tapes and things like that you wouldn't get on the cell phone this call, but we would try to call occasionally and so forth. Out of that, both his mom and dad accepted Christ, as did his both brother and sister, and but he lost he passed away in May of that year. That was one of the most difficult years they had. And we coached the team, and we had a wonderful year. Went to the NCAA tournament, and with a bunch of guys that really loved him, and did everything they could to help him as well, and make his years better. But I'll never forget the last time I saw him, but he was able to talk to me. He said, "Coach, if I could just spend 4 years at Transylvania, I would be happy to die." Mm-hmm. He loved that place that much, and he loved his teammates and me and the school. But it just sometimes we take things so for granted. And he sure woke me up right quick, and we were able to realize real quick, you don't take things for granted, because you need to. We're blessed every day to wake up in the morning and we've got to forget. Sometimes when things are going really difficult, we need to look around to see how blessed we are.
Yeah. Our health's one of those we take for granted until we don't have it, right?
That's right. That's exactly right.
Oh, we've been so blessed, Coach. We only got about 45 seconds left. What's one last thing you'd like to share with people?
Well, at the end of the book, and I would really thank you for pushing the book for me, but it's I also have a website, The Lane Way by Coach Don Lane, if they want to use that. But the place to order would be CoachLane.net, and I'm going to be at Oak and Moore February 3rd for about 3 hours, 11:30 to 11 to 3. I'll be there then. But if anybody wants to come by and have me,
where is that located?
It's on Main Street for sale.
Versailles,
yep. Yeah, it's my niece and her son owns it. But anyway, I do it there. I've done 2 or 3 there. It's great. But CoachLane.net can get you straight to where you need to order it. And if you see me somewhere, I'd be happy to autograph it. But it's a blessing. But I would like to say at the end of the book, I say there's 2 things that we all need to remember. One is, there's 2 words. One is gratitude, and you put grateful there, and take out another step, and you can say grace. But grateful to those who helped you get where you are, starting from life itself, parents, right through to all those. And the other is the going from being at the gratitude to being able to then be able to give back. And so you go from gratitude and thankfulness to being able to generously give to others.
Well, unfortunately out of time, but it's been 3 great days. You've been blessed by these programs. I hope you'll share it with somebody else. For Coach Don Lane, I'm Greg Horn, and this is Hope is Here.
Thank you for listening to Hope is Here podcast. To listen to one of our previous programs or to make a tax-deductible donation, please go to our website, hopeishere.today. That's hopeishere.today.